It is quiet right now on Capitol Hill as the U.S. government shutdown enters a second day. Thanks for inviting us in. It's now 6 o'clock. We want to begin tonight with thousands of federal workers now furloughed. Our Brandon Schaff talked with people at local food banks today who are now bracing for an increased need from Hoosier families.
For some federal employees without a paycheck, making ends meet could be challenging. Local food banks are preparing for that.
If the government is not reopened quickly, food banks will be the first and potentially only option for assistance for many impacted individuals and families across the country.
Feeding Indiana's Hungry works with food banks across the state. The executive director says that the government shutdown comes as people face the highest food insecurity rates in a decade. She added that there should be enough food for those in need in the short term.
Most of what we would expect to see in October and even maybe into November has already been ordered. That's already completed. It's if it were to be prolonged, there would eventually not be USDA employees there to make the food purchases for those programs.
Federal nutrition programs like SNAP, WIC, and more could feel the impact if the shutdown lasts several weeks or longer. Hoosier Hills Food Bank has not seen many people coming in because of the government shutdown. However, CEO Julio Alonso says that they anticipate that'll change.
If it goes more than a couple of weeks, that could start to have a severe impact on a lot of people in our communities.
Alonso explained Hoosier Hills Food Bank is preparing, but they're already struggling to meet the current needs of their community.
A lot of people are really living on the margins these days. And one thing, the loss of one paycheck, the loss of benefits for a month or a few weeks, something like that could really be a serious setback.
For those affected by the government shutdown, Bryant says they can check the Community Compass app or website to find nearby food resources. Brandon Schaff, 13 News.
The School Nutrition Association is reminding families tonight that they can apply for free and reduced school meals anytime when it's related to a loss of income. This government shutdown is also impacting national parks across our country. Indiana Dunes posted on social media its educational and informational programs are now paused during the shutdown, but the park is still open with access to the trails and shoreline. The visitor center also remains open tonight. Park Service law enforcement personnel are still on patrol. So we've got this great stretch of weather to head up north and check out the dunes. We enjoyed another day here in the 80s across central Indiana. We've got Rob in for Angela tonight to tell us the sunny stretch is going to stick around through the weekend, huh?
Whatever pattern that we're in is great for getting outside, going to the park, continuing all the way through the weekend. There are some changes looking down the road, but I think at least for the next 3 days, what you see is what you get.
Nice.
This is it. It's staying with us. So temperatures, will start there because that's the only game in town at this point. There's no rain on the radar. Temperatures in the 80s. We made it in the 80s yet again today. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll probably do that into the weekend as well. So whatever you have planned for this evening, the only clouds we really have in place are just a few high thin clouds that have been staying with us for the last maybe 24 hours or so, or a couple of pop-ups into parts of southern Illinois. I'm just pointing that out because we may start to see a little bit more moisture move our way. I still don't think it's going to mean any changes in our forecast in the short term. This evening, if you have plans, maybe do a dinner outside. This is going to be great. Temperatures cooling down through the 70s. We'll be in the 60s by midnight, and we'll end up in the 50s for our overnight lows with clear skies. And tomorrow we'll start out in those 50s, but very quickly back into the 80s for tomorrow. The weekend looks the same, but if you're needing rain, maybe the garden needs some rain. It's not in Friday's forecast, but it is in the 7-day. I'll show you when coming up.
All right, Rob, we'll see you in a little bit. Tonight at 6, the Indiana Department of Correction now confirms another 25 ICE detainees are arriving at the Miami Correctional Facility. So that brings the total number of detainees housed at this facility to 40 so far after 15 arrived yesterday. IDOC says it could see up to 100 detainees at the Miami Correctional Facility by the end of this week. Now, the average stay for detainees expected to be somewhere between 34 and 45 days. Today, the city of Indianapolis finished the demolition of a troubled housing complex on the far east side. For years, Town and Terrace was the site of crime and neglect. Tonight at 6, our Jenna Webster tells us what's next for this property and the people who live nearby.
You see this pile of rubble behind me, and it's hard to imagine what used to be the Town and Terrace apartments, but one woman I talked to says it's the place she used to dream of living.
It's years of history gone,
in an instant.
The blink of an eye, there it goes.
Liz Durden called the apartment's home for 35 years. She remembers a vibrant community filled with families, barbecues, and people who would help you out. But years of neglect made it a hot spot for illegal activity, and it became a site of disrepair. In 2020, police responded to the complex 400 times. Demolition began 2 years ago, as Durden watches the final apartments come down, calling it the end of an era.
Everything is just, it's over. But this right here was one of the best places to be. I used to want to live here. I used to come by and say, oh, I want to live over there. And then I finally got a chance to live here, and then it just started deteriorating.
This property, now with the torn down oak tree complex, is part of the Far East Side Quality of Life Plan, where the community can give feedback about its future use. Meanwhile, Liz says she'd like to see some new apartments built for families, maybe even have a few shops mixed in throughout. In Indianapolis, Jenna Webster, 13 News.
A skating rink on Indy's northwest side just withdrew its request for an alcohol permit. Skateland near 38th and High School Road faced lots of pushback on the request last week from community members and police. So they pointed to past fights and shootings at the rink, saying adding alcohol to the mix could lead to more violence. A law firm for the skating rink says they decided to withdraw the permit request after hearing those concerns. Tonight, IMPD says the recent uptick in accidents involving cyclists, especially along the Monon Trail, has their attention. Tonight, our Ashton Hackman shares the message from IMPD for both drivers and cyclists.
The Monon Trail crossing here at 16th Street is one of several intersections along the Monon where a pedestrian or a cyclist has been hit and injured so far this year.
Traffic accident data collected by Indy Ped Safety Crisis shows it's been a dangerous year for those traveling by foot or by pedal. 583 crashes in all, 13 of them at crossings like this along the Monon Trail, where at 16th Street yellow lights flash above.
At these intersections, who has the right of way? It depends. Sometimes it's pedestrians if they're in the intersection, and sometimes it's the motorists.
Most drivers we saw slowed down or stopped as they approached, but that's not always the requirement.
But what we want is for pedestrians, cyclists to stop, look around, make eye contact with the drivers, make sure that people are stopping in all lanes, because even if they have the right of way, a crash between a pedestrian and a cyclist, the pedestrian's going to lose.
Metro Police are reminding drivers that if there is an unfortunate crash, that drivers are required to stay on scene and cooperate with police. In Indianapolis, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Tonight, we've just learned the name of the woman who was killed in a triple shooting on the northwest side Monday night. 33-year-old Vianney Hernandez was found dead in a car near 38th and Guyan Road. Also at the scene, a 22-year-old man shot inside the car who died at the hospital, and a 29-year-old man shot outside the car who died at the scene. Tonight, police think that shooting started as a disturbance between two groups. So far, though, no suspect information. Now, if you do know something that can help detectives solve it, call Crime Stoppers. You don't have to give your name. That's the phone number, 317-262-TIPS. Still ahead on this Thursday night, families hit hard by child care voucher cuts might finally feel relief. We've got the new campaign kicking off to help cover costs. Rob?
And rinse and repeat. It's been the same thing over and over, from the 50s in the morning to the 80s in the afternoon. But it's going to be cooler next week. Have a look at the 7-day.
Black people have been in every war fighting for this country that we love so much.
Tonight, recognizing the historic heroes of the Civil War. We've got the event taking students back in time to see the full scope of the people who fought for our freedom.